Okay, our next question is, how can we faithfully make intersections from who the villains are in the gospel with today's villains?
So somebody, I saw BJ flash a question that came up on my screen at least that's kind of related to this. She asked in chapter 3 of Mark, Jesus talks about an unforgivable sin. Is opposing Jesus in this way related to the unforgivable sin? That is, you're canceling the activity of God or the things the Spirit of God is doing. And I'll leave that one back for a bit, but I want to hook it up with this one. Can you say the wording again, Kelly, of that question?
Sure. How can we faithfully make intersections from who the villains are in the gospel with today's villains?
Yeah, so today's lesson has the Jewish leaders who get the back of Mark's hand as far as the characterization goes. Have them jealous of who Jesus is. You probably don't want to be that, right? One way to read a gospel, and we never read it this way, is, we always think, I want to be like Jesus. I want to be like the disciples. But we very rarely say, I'm going to find the people I don't want to be like and figure that out, right? There is that Sunday school song, did any of you know? I don't want to be a Pharisee. I don't want to be a Pharisee, because a Pharisee ain't fair, you see. Have you sung that before? I think it's top 40. We sing about it in Sunday school, but I don't think we do that very often. It's not a bad idea. What makes these people villains probably makes other people villains now, right? Resisting the work of God is probably not a good idea, right? And villains in our time are people who do that. Now, in the full picture of the four Gospels, we're going to get Jesus eating with Pharisees. We're going to get him talking to Nicodemus by night. So Jesus doesn't say these people ought to disappear from the earth, right? Or he doesn't. He sort of rides this line where he knows that their opposition is getting in the way of what God wants to do, but he doesn't end up disqualifying them from the possibility that they'll get it right someday. That's a way to look at current villains too, right? A way to look at people who are currently resistant to the good God has to do is not to say, okay, these people don't deserve to exist, right? Jesus said in Matthew 18, if somebody sins against you, go and confront them, and if they do it again, if they refuse to turn and apologize, then go with another person, and then if they still are hardened, go with put them in front of the whole church, and if they still are hardened, throw them out for a while, in the hopes people outside he says, treat them as a tax collector or sinner, and he goes after tax collectors and sinners, right? So there's nobody outside Jesus's want list. Jesus's I want them to be whole list. So just as Jesus ends up seeking out a few Pharisees and villains of the Gospels, we probably ought to think that way about people we think are in the way. Does that make sense?